Hello, everybody. So today we're going to talk about a topic that is not the most fun to talk about. We're going to talk about visa refusals, visa denials. I know, when we all think about going to the US Embassy, we think about going and getting a visa and, and coming to the US to travel, to move over here and, to change our lives. But unfortunately, sometimes you go to the embassy and, you get denied your visas. You get a pink slip. And so I'm going to talk about really, because this is the way, not everybody goes to the embassy for the first time and gets their visa the first time. Some people try 2, 3, or 4 times. Some people have even tried 10 times and finally they get it. And so I'm going to talk about visa refusals, but I'm going to group them into really 3 main categories because I believe there is always a comeback to this because, just because you get denied the first time doesn't mean that you won't ever get a visa. And the reason why I want to talk about these 3 categories is I want to make sure that if you end up going to the US Embassy and you get denied a visa application, I want you to make sure that you get a document that documents what kind of a visa denial or refusal that you had. So really there is 3 main visa denials, when you go for a non-immigrant visa, at the US Embassy. And so the first one, which is the most common visa refusal, is a 214B. This is the one that most people usually get. So 214B is actually a code section under the Immigration and National Act. They call it INA. So 214B, when you get a 214B, that usually means that you did not meet the visa eligibility for the consular, for the person who interviewed you to give you the visa. Really, the law says that, and this is one of the most kind of controversial things about immigration is you are presumed guilty until proven innocent. Okay, so what really when you go to the embassy and when you get a 214B, what happens is the law says that they presume you to be an immigrant until you prove otherwise, that you are a non-immigrant. And so the burden of proof is upon you to go to the embassy and prove them otherwise. And so if you go and unfortunately you're not able, to overcome the ties, the visa requirements, they give you a 214B, which is the most common, the most common refusal that a lot of people get. And when you get a 214B, it doesn't mean that you'll never get a visa. A 214B just means that, when you did that interview, you did not meet the visa, the eligibility requirements, but you can apply at a later date. You can apply, bring back better proof or explain yourself better. And so that's the most common visa refusal is a 214B. The second visa refusal is called the 221G. All right. So this visa refusal is different. It's you get a 221G usually when, it's like the application that you provided is not complete. There's things that are missing, or you did not provide adequate support to, supporting documents to prove your case. And so a 221G doesn't necessarily mean that, the denial is final. Okay, because sometimes the interviewer gives you this refusal, but maybe they want to, it's pending. It's called what is called administration processing. So if sometimes they may ask you to provide additional documentation. All right, and if they ask you to provide additional documentation, please make sure that you do that within the year. Within the year. So after they ask you that after your interview, make sure you provide any additional supporting documents within 1 year. Otherwise, you're going to have to reapply again. But then sometimes it's, that the interviewer, they want to go back and they want to look at your application. They want to do admin processing, look into it, kind of do some more research or something like that. And so a 221G can actually be reversed from a refusal to you getting a visa. And so a 221G doesn't necessarily mean that you've been denied. So that's why it's so important for you to know, what is the refusal that you got for your visa. And then, so after the 221G, the third visa refusal is the 212A. So the 212A is for people who are inadmissible into the US. So that means if you receive a 212A, it doesn't matter how many times, so with a 221G, you can reapply. With a 214B, you can reapply. But for a 212A, what that means is that you are not admissible in the US. And it doesn't matter what, unless you find a way to get a waiver against that, there's no admission for you into the US. So some of those reasons, they give a bunch of reasons under 212A that that you can be refused on. And so 212A, one of it's for aliens who are inadmissible under the following paragraphs. Okay. One is the health related grounds. So that means, sometimes it's vaccinations. If you're not vaccinated and, or, if you have some certain communicable diseases, that's one ground for refusal. But also, there's criminal and related grounds. And so if you've been convicted for two or more crimes and being, and actually been in jail for 5 years or more, that's one of the grounds, or drug violations, or, some crimes that, it red flags you. And so you get a denial. That means it doesn't matter whether you apply again, you will not get a visa. There's also security and related grounds. If the US deems you to come to the US to sabotage, the US, to overthrow the government, that's another reason that you can be denied under the 212A. But there's also the public charge. And so if they feel like you're going to be a public nuisance, then they can deny you. If you were supposed to fill out the affidavit of support, and you didn't, you can get a 212A. The other thing is labor certifications, and if you have problems when you're applying for the H-1B and there's labor certification issues and qualifications for certain immigrants that that just complicate the process. And then you have people who've gone, who've entered into the US illegally. So illegal entrants and immigration violators. So if you violated immigration, it could be grounds. And sometimes you can appeal those things. Sometimes you can get a waiver for those things. But if you are under that, if you're under 212A, that means unless you correct that means every time you apply, you won't get it. You won't get a visa. But there's also documentation, documentation's required. So if you apply and your passport is expired and your documents are not correct, that's another way. If you're ineligible for citizenship, that means if you abandoned the US and you're not eligible, you've done some things that have made you ineligible for citizenship, that's also another refusal. Aliens who've previously been removed. So if you've been in the US and you've been removed, that's a refusal. And then you have the miscellaneous refusers. So those are miscellaneous. So those are really the three main categories of visa refusals, visa denials. It's very important to know where you lie, so that you can, next time if you go, you can be able to correct that. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you, guys.